Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series. If you with us for the very first time today and you download the preaching plan on the website below, you can read 2 chapters a day, and within 20 months you would have covered the entire Bible. Now I'm standing in a massive pit. I can't get out of here, and not without somebody putting down a ladder or reaching me out some other way. I'm trapped in here. Now, the context of the book of Exodus is slavery. The people were trapped. In fact, they wound up there in the first place because Joseph, their ancestor, was thrown into a pit just like this. And so the Egyptians enslaved them and were harsh toward them, and that slavery seeped deep into their soul, deep into their mind. They became an enslaved people. And we've said, as we've read through this book, that slavery is a picture of the slavery of sin in our lives, that we too are enslaved before we've been set free. And it seeps deep into our mind, deep into our soul, and we can't get out of it. The thing about that sort of slavery is that you carry it with you wherever you go. You know, I meet people all over the world that have run away from things, but they carry the slavery with them. I've met people who've left marriages and they've carried their fears with them. They've carried their pain with them. I meet people who've changed their whole lives. I've done a full-on makeover, but inside they carry that pain with them. They carry that slavery with them. And that's the story. That's the message in the story today. Because the Egyptians were chasing the Israelites down. They'd been set free from their captivity, but the Egyptians were coming. And all of a sudden, this is what it elicits in the Israelites. Moses, you should have left us in slavery. Are you crazy? Were there not enough graves in Egypt? You've caused us to die out here in the middle of nowhere. And they've racked with fear. They've carried their slavery mindset with them into the desert. God does something very dramatic in this story. He wipes out the entire Pharaoh's army in the Red Sea. Remember the story. It's great reading. And it's their slave masters are buried, which is a wonderful picture for us that God has gone to dramatic lengths to set us free. And as we go through our waters of baptism, it's like the Egyptians in our lives, the slave masters, the sin of our lives is buried in the sea of baptism as we enact that dramatic story. Because you see, every single one of us is enslaved by sin. That's what the Bible teaches. And like me in this pit, can't get out. Now, let's flick over to Acts 22. This is Paul's account of his slavery. Now, the ironic thing is that in 22, he actually is in a prison. He's been arrested. He is enslaved, and yet he's free. He's free. You see, his freedom was absolute freedom. And no matter what you do with his physical body, he's been set free. So he's standing on the steps and he's explaining to his captors. He says, let me tell you what, I studied under Gamaliel. I was enslaved by the law. I hated Christians. He's basically saying I was racked in slavery. And I was on my way to Damascus to go and wipe out some more Christians. And all of a sudden, it's like his rescuer arrived. Jesus met him in the middle of his pit. Jesus met him on that Damascus road where he was absolutely at his bottom wit's end. And Jesus reaches out with grace and he speaks into his life and he says to him, I'm going to set you free, my boy. I've come to set you free. And this is what he says to him. He says to him in verse 16 of 22, and now what are you waiting for? Get up. He's been set free by Jesus. Be baptized. So he's saying, and wash your sins away. He's basically saying, just as the Egyptians were washed away in the Red Sea, as you go through those waters of baptism, know that all your legalism and your hatred and your pain and your captivity is washed away. And then God says to him, now get up. And he goes to the temple, and God visits him in a great dream. And in that dream, he goes into a trance, and God says to him, now listen, I'm going to send you to people in captivity all over the world, the Gentiles, he calls them, you and me. You see, we can pretend we're free, but we carry our slavery with us. We carry our fears with us. We can change our circumstances. We can do our makeovers, but we enslaved like this. But this is the word of the gospel. Jesus just as he climbed into Saul's pit on that Damascus road, climbs into yours. And he says, listen, this is the difference between Christianity and every other religion. He meets you while you are yet a sinner in the depths of your caves of your sin. And he says, look, here's the ladder. Here's the way out. It's faith in me. It's trust in Jesus. Put your life, let me lead you by the hand and lead you out of your slavery. God bless you as you read these chapters. I trust that if you're not yet fully convinced that Christ has set you free, call on his name today, and he will come into the depths of your despair as he did Paul.